Okay, cool. Thank you everyone for coming. So the subject of my talk is creating accessible design system components. But it doesn't only have to be about the components in the design system. I think it's very relevant for all the front-end developers who are creating components, any kind of components. So I already did my introduction, but I'm Anya. I'm a software engineer at Kraken, and some of my hobbies are gaming. I love eating and cooking, and also I'm very passionate about perfumes recently. So yeah, I'm learning a lot about perfumes. Um, okay, so I'd like to start my presentation with this number. So 16% is, according to the World Health Organization, the number of people worldwide who may have some kind of disability. So it's around 1 in 6 people, and just looking at this huge number, you can kind of have the image of how important it is to care about the accessibility in the web development. And this is only about the permanent disability. And you can see that there is many other situations where the accessibility for the web content can be very useful. So for example, there's also temporary disability when you just break your arm and you cannot use your mouse for a few weeks, or also situational disability. So for example, for new parents when they have a baby and for very long for the few of the first weeks they need to hold the baby for a long time, so they cannot use their arms as well so well. So looking at this, you can see that the accessibility features for the web is making everyone's life easier. So for example, adding closed captions for the videos can make people with hearing disability be able to experience the content, but also for the people who are in the noisy environment and just want to watch something, they can also use the closed captions. So the accessibility features are helping everyone. And I feel that as a web developers, we should all care about this and make it our responsibility to care about the content being accessible for everyone. So it was already mentioned in the previous presentations, but here's the 4 principles for the accessibility for the web content. So the application, the things that we make should be perceivable, which means that it should be you should be able to experience them both by sight or also hearing through the screen reader. They should be operatable not only by mouse but also keyboard. That should be understandable. So when you click a button, you should be able to have the image of what will happen if you do it. And the content should be also understandable for different levels of understanding for different people. And also robust, which means that we should be able to access the content by browsers and different devices like screen readers. So moving on to the creating of the components. So here's another abbreviation. It's POSH, and it means plain old semantic HTML. So using plain old HTML is the easiest way that you can make your components accessible, because the HTML native elements already have all the accessibility features built in. They have the labels, they have the keyboard support. So if you use the native boring plain HTML elements as much as you can, you will have already a lot of accessibility built in. There is this like annoying styles that we need to remove every time we use them, and they look different in different browsers. So there is a bit of a annoying part to use it. So a lot of people just skip it and like use div and create them into buttons. But if you use the native buttons, just remove the styles, you will have already like the focus, the keyboard support, everything. So I really recommend that. The issue is that we don't have the HTML element for everything. So, and often we are asked by our designers in the company to create some elements that don't have like a not native element out of the box. So I would like to introduce how I create this custom element. And the example of this will be this slider component. So this is a component that I created while I was in my previous company. And the design team in my company called it Slider. And it was supposed to be this like a scale where you can click on different levels on this circles, and you can choose different like fit of the clothing. So the average is in the middle, and you can choose like a tightness level and a looseness of the clothing element. So this was the slider that I got, and I needed to create it. So here are the steps that I follow when I create this kind of custom components, and I want to make them accessible at the same time. So first of all is finding a pattern that I want to follow. The second step is adding all the Y-area roles, states, and properties that are necessary for the element. And the third step is the keyboard support and the focus management. So I will go through the steps now in more details. So first of all, finding a pattern. So this site was also already mentioned, so it's a good review, but ARIA Authoring Practices Guide is an amazing resource. I really love it because it's showcasing a lot of different patterns for different components. And we can find there's something that matches. And if we find it, we have all the description of how it should behave, how the keyboard behavior should be, and so on. So it's extremely useful, and I really recommend this resource to everyone. So first of all, I went there and I was looking for something that looks similar to this slider that I wanted to create. So when I'm looking for this pattern, what I think is that which of the patterns showcased in this website is the most fitting for the component that I'm creating. And important thing that I found out is not to be fooled by the name that I get and just read through the description and think more about the functionality, not the UI. So what I mean by that is that with the slider, first I went to the slider pattern and I read the description of the component there. So it said that slider is an input where the user selects a value from within a given range, and they have a slider thumb that can be moved along a bar, rail, or track to change the value of the slider. So reading this description, it kind of sounded like it fits what I want to create. So I went with this pattern at first. However, reading through all the requirements for the slider that was showcased there, I found out that I need this value now property, and it's a decimal value representing the current value of the slider. I will also need a value min and value max, which will be the minimum and maximum values of the slider, and also decimal, and also value text can be added. It's not a mandatory, but you can make you can add this value text that will show on top of the decimal value. So in this example, there are like numbers, but the labels you can see are represented as a text. So I was thinking that because I need to show like a tighter or looser, which are not the values that I have like a decimal. I could maybe add the decimal values there and maybe put the names as a text on top of it, but it would make it kind of like over-engineered, I guess, for something that should be more simple. Like we don't need all those decimal values there. So I went again to the slider component and I stopped focusing on like the name slider that I got from the design team and this look, how it looks here. And I thought about the functionality. So we have 5 different values and we should be able to choose just one of them. So actually, if you just forget about this like line going through the whole slider, actually it looks more like a radio button group because you just choose one value from this group. And when I realized it, it made it so much easier to just go with the radio button group pattern for the whole component. And the description also said that it's a set of checkable buttons and no more than one of the buttons can be checked at a time. So actually it's basically describing what this custom slider should behave. Once I had the pattern, the next step was going through the whole component description and select and understand which Y-area roles, states, and properties should be added to radio button group. So to make this custom component into a radio button group, we need a radio group role for the whole component, and also role radio for each of the elements, each of the values that we can choose from. We also need area checked for the value that is checked at the current time, and a label both for each of the values and also for the whole radio button group. So when I implemented this way, it's very important that you check it with your DevTools. So this is the image from the DevTools. It's just built in your browser. So this is from Chrome, and you can very easily check if what you implemented is actually how it behaves, how you want it to behave. So here I could confirm that I have all the roles correctly, the labels are also correct, and the button that's selected is checked. So once I had this functionality done, I moved on to the last step, which was the keyboard support and focus management. So for keyboard support for radio group, we need to be able to tap into the radio group. And when you tap into this with your keyboard, you should immediately be able to go to the button that's selected already. You don't need to go from left to right. You go directly to the button selected. Yes, and also with the left and right arrow or top and bottom arrow, you should be able to go through all the buttons. And when you move to the next one, the focus should also go there, and the button should be selected also. There's also one thing that's called a rowing index, which means that if you go to the furthest right of the radio buttons and you go right again, you should be able to like wrap around and go to the furthest left button. So this is how the ready-made component looks like. So this is me moving it with the keyboard, and you can also see this rowing index, which means that the button went like from right and like furthest left again. So in conclusion, I would like to also mention, I think it was mentioned already, but it's very important that you need to think, I feel that it's very important that you need to think about the accessibility at the beginning when you create components. Because as you see, it's so much easier than you create something with accessibility in mind and build it this way. Then you try to fit it into some pattern after it's already made, and you add the accessibility features on top of it. And also here's the quote from the creator of the World Wide Web that I really liked. So it says that the power of the web is in its universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. So I think that the web is an amazing place that creates that's also removing boundaries for communication for a lot of people that maybe have the boundaries like that in the real life. But also when we don't care about accessibility, we create more walls for people create something that cannot be accessed for a big group of people. So I feel that we should be responsible to creating the most accessible web content as we can as a developers. So here are some few resources that I used, and you can connect with me through LinkedIn here. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's go to the question time. 1 second. My internet is a bit slow now. Okay. What advice would you give young women and men to work in tech industry? Can you share your career journey? Sorry.
Oh, wow. That's a great question. So actually, my career journey was a bit. I didn't start from tech, and I didn't have education background in IT. Actually, I was studying Japanese language and the culture in university. And when I moved here, I was working in like, sales and marketing for a few years. So I went through the coding bootcamp and switched my career to tech around over 5 years ago. So my advice would be maybe just to that yeah, it's never too late. I feel that if you're really interested in, I feel it's always like worth a try, even if your background is completely different than tech. And also, even if you hate math and cannot do math at all, like me, you can still do it because I had this image that it would be like super math heavy, but for me, it's more. I have this image more like the it's like talking to computer through language. So it's like learning a new language for me, and it resonated more with me with my language background to treat the development as like talking to a computer in a new language. Yeah, so don't be intimidated and give it a try, even if you're like if you have a very different background.
Okay. And next question, what do you like and dislike about Japan? The most.
Wow. Yeah, I've been here 14 years and I also studied culture, Japanese culture before I came, so I wasn't like a shocked or like I was pretty prepared when I came. So yeah, what I like, mm, yeah, I really enjoy living in Japan. I love how safe food feels. I love all the diversity of the food,
Mhm.
the the beautiful nature. And people are super nice here. So there's so much thing I love here. So that's why I stayed here for 14 years. What I don't like maybe is the traditional working culture. I've never worked in a very Japanese company, but I know through my friends that sometimes like you're forced to work long hours and it's not about productivity, but more about like the time you sit in the office. So I hope that Japan will also, I feel it's changing, but I feel it will be more, there will be more companies who embrace the more diverse working culture. Yeah.
Yeah,
And allow
totally
to
agree.
take more holiday.
Yes. And what are the some unique aspect of Japan's tech industry comparing to the rest of the world?
That's actually a bit difficult for me because I never worked in different country than Japan.
Okay.
I feel that there is, in terms of accessibility, there's still a lot of to do because Japan, I don't think there is like a very strict rules about accessibility. So there's still a lot of pages that have, for example, images with the text. The text is an image, so there is no way to read it with screen readers, and the content is not very accessible. So yeah, I hope that there will be more strict rules for that because I heard that Japan has very strict rules about the environment to make it accessible, like the stairs, like the opening of like bottles and so on. So there are strict rules there. That's why a lot of things are try to be more accessible. But for the web, there's no rules. That's why it's still like not so strict. But I heard that it's changing.
Yeah, I think in Japan we still have to work on that accessibility. Like for example, like last time I went to Osaka, I have to buy Shinkansen ticket. I know it's not a website. We have to buy from vending machine, and we need two ticket. I mean, even though I'm Japanese, I don't know how to buy from vending machine because the access is so bad. Like, and then like I have to line up for the like what do you say, like ticket counter to buy from the person. It's so funny. Some people think like Japan is like living in like future, but still like there's some certain like industry they have to work on like accessibility or like like technical like yeah stuff because like so complicated. Like even though like for Japanese who's doesn't have any disability or anything like but sometimes still hard to live in Japan.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's all for
There's one question in the chat.
okay.
Ayama.
Okay. Can you read it? I
Yeah,
don't know.
sure. It is which programming language are the most useful?
It very depends on what you want to do. So I'm a front-end engineer, so I learned JavaScript first, and this is what I've been using in my two companies. But it depends, like if you want to be a backend engineer, probably like learning Python maybe more useful, especially also for the data science. Yeah, so it really depends.
Okay. Hmm.
And there is one comment,
Yeah.
Julia.
Yeah, Julia, going from Kanazawa to Osaka, I need 3 different tickets and change 2 times, and I had to insert 2 tickets. Yes, exact same times, and the last stop, all the 3 of them. It took quite a while to figure. Yes, exactly. Yes, it's complicated sometimes. Like even though we have a great transportation, but how they work is sometimes super confusing. Yes. Okay. So let's wrap up. And thank you so much for be here with us, and like special thanks to speaker, our amazing speaker, Tamara, Julia, and Anya. Thank you so much. It was amazing. And I learned a lot of things about accessibility. I never thought about like equity, or like how, the way engineer see the website, how they create it, or like so on. Like it was super new to me, and I learned a lot. Thank you so much. And once again, so November 15th, we are gonna have the conference where in Tokyo. Yes, and please make sure come to see us and say hi. Yes, thank you so much, and stay tuned for Ladies Night 3. Thank you. Have a nice day.